And now back to Matthew Hatfield and the evil basketball coach. Blast you, Ed Young!
And we're back here with segment 2 with the one and only Phil Steele, the college football guru himself. Go get his college football magazine. It's available on Barnes & Noble here across the Hampton Roads area and all over the state of Virginia. If you're watching with us on Cox TV in your view, Fredericksburg, Northern Virginia, Roanoke markets as well with the coach Ed Young. I am Matthew Hatfield. Phil's so kind to give us more of his time here. And Ed, I know you're rocking the Notre Dame hockey jersey, so you have to ask about Marcus Freeman and your Fighting Irish with the new quarterback and all that's ahead for them in 2025.
Well, I wore Notre Dame because Phil's on. I need the luck of the Irish. Phil will give it to me straight. Phil, I'm nervous, though. New quarterback. I know you kind of like him. Schedule opening up at Miami of Florida with all them crazies down there. That makes me nervous. Then we get a break, and here comes Texas A&M, not Texas San Antonio, Texas A&M. Purdue should be a 60-0 win. But then, Arkansas, Boise State, schedule gets a little crazy here and there.
First ever time with Boise, huh? How about that?
Yeah, they got Boise State. Thank God it's at home. USC, thank God it's home. But, Phil, give it to me straight. I'm not picking my Irish to win it. I think they'll be in the playoffs, obviously, but I don't think they're going to win it. But you give it to me straight.
Well, Coach, when you go back and take a look at last year heading into the national title game, it's too bad Notre Dame was banged up. I mean, they were missing their top defensive lineman, top offensive lineman, their running back. Jeremiah Love wasn't 100%. I would have liked to have seen Notre Dame been 100% healthy for that title game last year. This year, they are breaking in a new quarterback, but I think C.J. Carr has a tremendous supporting cast. When you've got Love and Price in the backfield, it's my number 2 set of running backs in the country. The offensive line loaded. I rated the number 3 offensive line in the country. And the receiving corps gets some additions with Will Pauling and Malachi Fields coming in. They're a top 15 unit as well. Defensively, really no questions. Each unit solid and at the top of it. I like the experience level that Notre Dame got last year. I do think their toughest 2 games are the 2 right out of the box. Miami on the road, they're a slight favorite there, and then Texas A&M at home. I think the Aggies are a team that could surprise some folks this year. And remember last year, while Notre Dame won that game 23-13, it was a tie game mid-4th quarter. They scored a touchdown, then they added a late score after a turnover. So I actually have Notre Dame favored in all 12 games this year. I think they're going to do well. The experience in the playoff helps them out. And remember, when the playoffs start, that new quarterback, C.J. Carr, will have 12 games under his belt. Won't be a first-year starter anymore.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I feel that too, obviously. And, of course, you mentioned right off the top there, injuries. They're going to have to avoid the injuries, obviously the key players. But we can say that about any squad, and then people will say, well, that's why you have backups. You got to get people ready so when they come in there. But when they're such a high unit as they have, and I know you've rated their units a lot in your top 10, top 12, that they can do it. I just think that it is imperative that they can get by Miami and Texas A&M, and then don't take anybody lightly after that to get in there.
Yeah, and last year I think Coach Freeman says they didn't take them lightly, but of course they did lose to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois actually had a really good team last year. They were better than their record. They were very physical at the line of scrimmage, senior-laden group. And, of course, they caught Notre Dame coming off that massive effort at Texas A&M. So it was a perfect scenario for Northern Illinois last year.
And speaking of massive upsets, Phil, that was right at the top of the list, or near the top of the list. If it wasn't at the top of the list, what happened with Northern Illinois knocking off Notre Dame, who went on to the national championship game? Ohio State got picked off by its rival Michigan, still won the championship game, but sleepers. We love surprise teams, dark horses. Even though they're in a big conference, Arizona State was one of them last year. People always love to point to Boise State, who plays Ed's Irish. We're hearing a lot of chatter about Toledo out of the MAC. Any 1 or 2 teams you see out there pulling off a big upset, or you would highlight, watch out for this squad because they can be much more dangerous than most are expecting?
Yeah, I'll go start with my number 1 surprise team in the country this year, and that's Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's coming off a 6-7 season last year. I have numerous factors here. First of all, they had a great defense. They held opponents to 87 yards per game below their season average, sixth best in the country. They have a great defense this year. 8 starters are back. R. Mason Thomas, one of the best defensive ends, leads my top-rated defensive line. All units are at the top. Now, their problem last year was offense. They had 0 returning starters on the offensive line. They lost their top 5 receivers due to injury. I earlier talked about Clemson. We saw Cade Klubnik improve from a 19-9 ratio to a 36-6 ratio with a better receiving core. Well, Oklahoma goes from a below-average receiving core that was all banged up to an above-average one. Guys like Deion Burks, an NFL prospect, back from injury. All the injured players back, plus they add in some transfers. They have a strength now at receiver. Offensive line, they now have a veteran group. Bill Benbaugh, one of the best offensive line coaches in the country. They, once again, go from a weakness to a strength. They add in a Jade Knott at running back, who was a top running back in the Pac-12 2 years ago at Cal, banged up last year. They add him to last year's top rusher, Javante Barnes, and they've got one of the better running back cores. And then you add in John Mateer, who had a great record with Washington State, dangerous runner and thrower, familiar with the offense because they bring over his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. They're going to be dangerous. Then you look at the schedule. Last year, they played one of the toughest schedules in the country and only had 3 SEC home games. Well, this year, they only have 3 true SEC road games. One's at Tennessee, one's at South Carolina. Both are winnable. They get Texas at a neutral site. They get Michigan at home. I've got Oklahoma going from 6-7 to a possible playoff berth this year. You touched on team, Matthew, that I think could be very dangerous, and that is Toledo in the MAC. You know, the thing that really impressed me last year about Toledo was their game against Mississippi State. Not that they won the game, but that they actually dominated that game at the line of scrimmage. In fact, after that game, Mississippi State's coaches said, we got to get bigger and stronger. We just got pushed around by Toledo. That tells you a little something about Toledo. They were an inexperienced team last year, number 110 on my experience chart. This year, they're number 25. A much more experienced team. Watch out August 30th when they play Kentucky on the road. If they win that, they have a chance of running the table, and they'd have a win over an SEC team under their belt. They would have a shot at making the playoff this year.
It reminds me, Phil, of years ago when I told our buddy, the late, great Mercurio, Northern Illinois over Maryland in 2002 with Michael the Burner Turner. I'm going to tell my friends, Phil said, watch out for Toledo to pull the upset. I'll look smart if you nail it. So,
Love Tony. He was, wasn't he awesome?
He was a blast from the past for sure. That's why I got the nickname the Blast Man, part of why. But Ed wants to ask you about players that could win the Golden Award, don't you? I know you do.
Well, and know that our time is limited because, heck, we can have Steele on here, Phil on here till probably 3:00 if the schedule would allow it. But, yeah, we do. Our listeners probably want to know Heisman candidates, Phil, maybe your top 5 look out for. Is it, again, going to be quarterback-driven, which every year people say that's what it seems to be, quarterback period. And maybe if your top 5 are quarterback, is there any other position player maybe we can look out for?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for another position, Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State stands out. But I believe the Heisman voters really wanted to get a non-quarterback in there last year, which they did. They're probably going back to quarterbacks this year. To me, the top 5 guys, Drew Aller, Penn State. If you're leading the number 1 team in the country, you're putting up good stats. You've got a great shot at being there. DJ Lagway, 6-1 as a starter at Florida. If he's 100% healthy, look out. They're going to pull some upsets. Some guy named Arch Manning is actually the preseason favorite. I think he will have a really good year. Texas is loaded. Garrett Nussmeier threw for over 4,000 yards with LSU, has some dangerous receivers. He'll put up big stats again. But my favorite to win the Heisman this year is Cade Klubnik at Clemson. I talked about how his receiving core got upgraded last year. We saw a much different Cade Klubnik. He's got my number 2 offensive line in front of him, number 2 set of receivers. I have Clemson favored in every game. I think Clemson's going to have the most potent offense in the country. So if you're the quarterback of the most potent offense in the country, putting up big stats, and I've got Clemson favored in all 12 games, you're undefeated at the end of the year, just go ahead and give him the Heisman Trophy. I'm going with Cade Klubnik at Clemson.
I like it. And Phil, in our final minute with you, we thank you so much for coming on the program. As always, tell the folks who had it scrolling across our ticker for much of this edition of the show, tell them what they'll get, not just in the magazine, but when they go to philsteele.com, get a part of Phil Steele Plus and Inside the Press Box. What's at their fingertips?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, Matthew. The magazine, first of all, is 360 pages. It's like getting 136 media guides rolled into one. It's a hefty book. You can only get it, though, at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. So get it before they sell out. Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. Save your gas money. Don't drive around. Or you can order it online at philsteele.com. Now, when you order it online, I'm going to charge you a shipping charge. It costs $10 to ship this thing, but we give you the digital magazine absolutely free, and we update that all the way through September. Now, we also have 2 other digital magazines. A lot of folks will be interested in this. 2 full pages on every FCS team. So, if you got a lot of games, FBS versus FCS, or if you're just an FCS fan, 2 full pages every FCS team, digital version available now. We also have an NFL version available with 4 full pages on each NFL team. So that's all available at philsteele.com. I have a weekly newsletter, as you touched on, Matthew, inside the press box. Check out the daily blogs on philsteele.com.
That's awesome about the FCS because we have a lot of fans of Hampton University and Richmond, William and Mary, and of course now Michael Vick, the head coach at Norfolk State. Join the cool kids club like Ed and me. Get your Phil Steele book. The preview is awesome, and the website, great info there too at philsteele.com. Phil, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you again soon.
Hey, Matthew, Coach, it was always great. It's always great talking with you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Phil.
That is the one and only Phil Steele with us here on 757 Sports Talk. We've got more coming your way. Don't touch that dial. You're watching 757 Sports Talk on CoVA Sports TV. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back in just a bit.